Hey! You're listening to a video podcast of Kids Get Acquainted with the Internet, a Girl Meets World video cast. Today's episode, what is it, Keith?
Kids meet Eric's new show, ?
So, is Eric Matthews getting a spin-off? The scuttlebutt around the town is that maybe we don't know. So,
Scuttlebutt.
So there have been little rumors percolating, and they're super rumors.
Get some good vocabulary. Scuttlebutt and percolate.
Yes. So we really don't know. We're going to talk about what little we've heard, but mostly we're just going to say, like, if it was true.
Mostly we're going to say, hey!
If it was true. We didn't introduce who we were, did we?
Doesn't matter.
Say, I'm Dan, he's
they
Keith,
know. If they don't know, if you don't know, get out of here.
Alright, so we're going to talk about the rumors, but we're also going to say, if this was true, what would we think about it? What would we want? What would we not want? So, basically, there was a rumor a few days ago, Will Friedle, who plays Eric Matthews, Mr. Squirrels himself, was interviewed at
Allegedly.
was interviewed at Dragon Con by EW, and there's a video, which I'll link in the description, where he's talking about how you might see more Eric Matthews in the future, more about what he's doing now, what's been going on with him, and he's talking, and he also mentions that, like, he doesn't know if Girl Meets World is continuing. Now, the interview goes in a direction of talking about how we know he's going to be in the finale. We know he's going to be in the finale of season 3. So that's not a possibility. We know that that's happening. So he's talking about something else.
That's confirmed, yeah.
Yeah, so this interview is either hinting at ideas for season 4 or a potentially Eric Matthews show or special or something. And there's been a few other tweets and things, which I'm going to try to find and add in the description too, of the past few months of people saying maybe we're going to see more Senator Eric, but not necessarily on Girl Meets World itself.
Yeah, what's interesting about this interview is, in a very short period of time, he both says, we may have a good chance of seeing more Eric, and he also says, we don't know if there's a season 4 or not. So it definitely has to mean it's either in season 4 we're getting more Eric if season 4 happens, or there's something else in the works.
Yeah, and getting that in combination with the tweets that I've been seeing about saying we might not see him in Girl Meets World itself, definitely hints at something. And he says he doesn't want to get fans' hopes up and all that stuff. So, like, he's still hinting at, like, a bigger project. Now, it's still up for debate if he's talking about season 4. But for the sake of argument and a video that we're recording now, what do we think about this? What are some thoughts?
So, I mentioned this right before we started recording.
Yeah.
But my initial thought is, of all the dialogue that's been going around about how one of the biggest reasons that Girl Meets World has such more presence of younger kids and more focus on them is because it's a kid show and not really a true family show. It's interesting
that it's more aimed at the child audience.
Yeah, well, yeah. It's interesting that they would do the whole, now we're going to have the adult being Will Friedle lead this new show, whereas they couldn't focus on
Corey
the adults of the show they already had. Yeah. And I think you could argue, okay, yeah, but, you know, Eric is Eric as a character, but still, Corey is not like a staunchy guy. It's not like they couldn't have focused on Corey more and made that about him.
So I have a few responses to that. One is, part of me is wondering, is this a Disney show, or is it maybe we've been hearing? That's the thing. We've been hearing. They clearly, the studio heads know loud and clear that there are people who want to see a Boy Meets World show on Freeform. And so maybe...
Not the same, though.
Yeah, but do you think that this could be their answer to that? That we're not going to get the switch to Freeform, but they know there's an audience that wants Boy Meets World characters on Freeform, and instead we're going to have a whole new show that's focused on an older character.
You see, that is so interesting.
Yeah.
But at the same time, so counterintuitive. Because the reason that people want Girl Meets World to go onto Freeform is so they can see Riley, grow up and deal with these more mature themes on Freeform, not so they can see Eric
be back
doing a kid show on Freeform.
Yeah.
Because Eric in Boy Meets World has some great mature themes rolled in there.
Yeah.
But everything about Eric that we've gotten from Girl Meets World is so the opposite of that.
Well, it's very season 7 Eric, maybe even a little bit on steroids.
It's much even watered down than that, because even to
by watered down you mean heightened, though. Do you mean it's more? Do you mean it's more heightened?
The seriousness, the reality.
Okay.
The reality is watered down. But I just think that if that is their we're giving them what they want, a really strange decision, because I can't imagine a show about Eric, even though I think it could be being serious, they're not going to. I mean,
well, I don't even think Will Friedle would want that, because even in that same interview, he talks about how as Eric got stupider, they were just writing more to him and to the kind of comedy that he likes to do, and that he has fun with, and that, let's be honest, to be clear here, I think he's great at. It's just not someone that I necessarily would anchor a show around, and so. Because
it just becomes the Wiggles.
Well, he's good as a side wacky character.
Yeah.
It reminds me of like when they were talking about doing a spin-off of The Office with Dwight, who is this like insane, comical, ridiculous character. And it's like, how are you going to make us care about this?
The problem is you need the straight man alongside that, because if you just have this sort of like chaotic force, and there's no straight man, and the straight man's not just as important.
Yeah.
What do you have? You just, I mean, think about like any character that's like Eric. I mean, think of like Keenan and Kel. You know, Kel was the Eric, and then there was a Keenan to be the straight man. You need that aspect. For a show
well, it's like they try to do a spinoff of Friends with Joey, and that just totally imploded because Joey is the ridiculous sidekick. Yeah, it was called Joey.
Was there like actual episodes?
There was like a season of it. Yeah, it's just like him. I think it's him in LA as an actor. I don't even know, but like. You can't, I don't think that works. Now, okay, we talked about the straight man.
Yeah.
Do you bring in Jack or somebody else? We can talk about other people they could bring in. Do you have the Jack and Eric show, and then does it work a little bit more?
The Jack and Eric show!
I mean, let's be clear. Their subplots are basically very separate, usually.
It could.
Yeah.
But to do that, they have to scrap everything they've done with Eric thus far in Girl Meets World.
You think so?
Because where does Jack come into that?
Well, see, now I was reading some stuff, and I'll talk about this article later. I was reading some stuff where people were theorizing how could you use Jack, that you could have him come in as like a political advisor, maybe, and that Jack is the like more cynical, obvious politician, and he gives Eric some actual knowledge, whereas Eric helps him become a better person and become.
This would be a very unique show if that's what they did.
I mean, that's the thing. Is like, here's the thing. I can see. I could probably write an Eric Matthews spin-off show.
Right.
I just don't know if it would.
How much
good.
life does it have?
Well, it's like I can see it existing. I just don't know if it would be a show that I'd be. It's definitely not a show that I'm like champing at the bit for, right?
Yeah.
Like
I have a season of it.
Yeah, and the thing is, I could maybe see that if it came out, I would be like, I'll watch this and I'll see what it is, and maybe it'll be really funny, and I'll give it a shot.
And we'll podcast.
Yeah, exactly. But I wouldn't be like, I would be much more excited to hear that Girl Meets World is moving to Freeform, because these are, to me, more complex characters. There is good comedy there too.
And there's the aspect of growth.
Yeah, there's the room for growth, and there's the more. Like, yes, there is potentially room for real-world issues with Eric as the senator, I guess.
Yeah.
But when you are anchoring it around this Eric, I just don't know how that works exactly.
The heart of the issue is, what we really want and need is a coming-of-age story.
Yeah.
Because that is not much on the market right now, and that's why Girl Meets World at its best has been refreshing, because there's that element to it.
Yeah.
With Eric, you can't have that because he's an adult, and, you know, even though he's had some lessons in the past, the lessons that he has left to learn are not relatable to that audience.
I mean, yeah, but so then is it aimed at the Boy Meets World audience who we're still coming of age in a different way, and is it supposed to be relating to our current, or even the people a little bit older than us and their current feelings and what they're currently going through?
But then why wouldn't that be Corey?
Or even Sean or something?
Yeah.
The thing is, like, I can't relate to Eric. I can think he's funny.
It's gonna be a comedy show. That's what it's gonna be.
And I just don't, like, I do think that, again, like, I would tune in because it would probably be funny, and Will Friedle is good, and I like Will Friedle. But I just don't see how you can focus a show on him unless you do bring him back to maybe like a season 5 zone, where it's like he definitely still had drama and he was an interesting character. But even Eric at his best, I don't know that I would have been, like, even if it was like I was watching Boy Meets World as it was going and they're like, season 5, now Eric's getting a spin-off show, I'd be like, but he's just better as part of the group.
Right.
Like, right? Like,
it's the context. I mean,
like,
the reason he's funny is because they have things going on and he walks in and destroys it.
Yeah.
That's why he's funny. So why take him away from the context when all you have to do is put him in, need to be a similar context to put him back into, then all you do is have a weaker context.
Yeah.
I mean, he's going to have to walk in on people trying to do serious things, and by removing the characters that he's already connected to and built up a relationship with, you're just going to have flat senatorish characters, and you know, I'm the businessman and I'm trying to do business, but this here senator is ruining my life.
Now, I read an article from...
Now, that was a trip, huh? There was a transition suddenly happening. I don't know where it started or where it ended up, but there were at least 3 different things.
I read an article from girlmeetsworldreview.blogspot.com. They wrote a few months ago, or maybe even a year ago, which I thought was interesting, where they're sort of pitching possible ideas, and they were talking about... Yes, Kim Possible.
Part 2, and he can be in that, because he was.
And so they were talking about, is like, okay, so if it's on Disney, then you need a kid. And so I had talked jokingly about, oh, well, we're going to have him, you know, he's a senator, he's going to try to get funding for an orphanage, it's going to be falling through, so he's going to take his dreams of adopting Tommy and instead adopt a whole mess of kids.
Right.
And then it'll be kind of like Jessie, the Disney show, where she's like the nanny of a bunch of kids.
Well, I don't remember if we talked about this on air before, but we talked about this before, but we made the joke of... either he's the live action and all the kids are animated, or all the kids are live action and he's animated. It's just this weird...
And that's the thing, him being animated would make a lot of sense in some ways, because the other thing that is sort of the weird piece of this is Will Friedle's anxiety issues, and does he actually, like, yes, it was great that he was able to come on Girl Meets World.
Is he up to a whole show?
Yeah, is he ready for a whole show every week? Maybe he is, and that would be awesome. But maybe he would be animated and everybody else wouldn't be. There is a show coming out, I think on Fox this coming fall, which is just that, which is an animated character in a live action setting. So it's not like unheard of.
What is the show?
I forget what it's called. It's some like He-Man sort of Thundercats.
I'll get you, He-Man!
But it's not like that would be totally unheard of, and I could, especially like in a kid's context, I could see that happening.
Yeah.
But
I mean, that would be fun.
Yeah.
For 3 episodes.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. But I want to say what this review was saying is they were sort of toning down what I had said about him adopting a whole mess of kids.
And just having like a foster home.
They were saying he adopts one kid, and that's like sort of a Maya type character who's sort of cynical and has had a tough life in an orphanage or whatever, and so she is like a very polar opposite to him, and so he kind of brings him down, he kind of brings her up. And that way they still have the kid character for the Disney show, and he tries to like he is more of the adult than he is the idea, right? And
so
I thought that was an interesting idea.
That is a cool idea.
Yeah.
But when I think about that, I think of more like an old school DCOM.
Yeah.
Is like the best Disney thing I can compare it to.
Yeah. Where
it has a little bit more of a seriousness to it, and I don't know that I can trust that they would not just make that too sitcom-y.
Yeah.
And then it's going to become, you know, well, he's the immature adult.
Yeah.
But she's the grown-up kid. Watch what crazy antics they get into next.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's the thing is that version of the show, especially they were also picking things like, okay, so that's the situation, and then, you know, like, they also were the ones who said, like, Jack could be, like, the bad politician he's just trying to tone down, and then maybe they bring in the love interest of like the social worker who's checking in on him taking care of the kid, and it's like these are all things I can see happening, and I thought they were interesting ideas. I guess that's the version of the show that I would give like the most I'd be most interested in that. The idea I came up with where he has a whole bunch of kids sounds possible, but I don't really want to watch that show.
It'd be a good dream sequence, maybe, I think. So, these are what we hear.
Yeah.
What do you expect, though?
No,
what do you think the most... So, if there is The Eric Show, what, in reality, everything you know about all the politics around us, what happens?
What's the most likely thing?
Yeah.
I think the most likely thing is that it would be on Disney, and that it would be to replace Girl Meets World, because Girl Meets World is long in the tooth in their opinion, but they want to keep that audience.
Does that mean they carry over a lot of the other stars?
I think they carry over 1 or 2 people, potentially. The things that I have been thinking about here is maybe, and this is all stuff that the website had talked about that I thought made a lot of sense, is bringing Josh, because Josh is his brother, and then he's also kind of a straight man in comparison. I'm not necessarily saying I want that, but like that would make sense.
That would be insane.
Yeah. That would make some sense. They also talked about Farkle, which does also make sense with Girls Goes to Washington. They had a bit of a rapport there. I could see that dynamic being an ongoing thing. I don't know why Farkle would come to DC if it's in DC or whatever.
For school, maybe.
Yeah, I don't know. all I know is this. I would 100% not want this show if it was replacing Girl Meets World. I do not want that.
It's like, what happens to Rowan and Sabrina?
Yeah, no, that's happens. Just... I mean, like, I love Will, but like we said, he's wacky. They have so much... I'm not saying he doesn't have range, but the character they'd write for him would not have the kind of range.
If all this recent history shows anything.
And so, I definitely wouldn't want that. I do think that something like a combination of Corey in the house and Jesse is what we would get. That's what I'm picturing, right? Corey in the house and Jesse. It's like that. Like they have ready-made things with adopted kids and living in the White House. Like he's not living in the White House, obviously, but you get what I'm talking about. And yeah, because even then the kid, if they do adopt one kid, then it's like the kid of a senator. What's his crazy life or her crazy life? And...
So. I don't know that I've seen more than like half an episode of Corey in the House.
Yeah.
But do you know how they explain the sudden disappearance of half the family?
See, no, I agree. I have only seen like half an episode too.
Okay.
I don't think they explain it very well at all. I think they stayed behind while he and the son went to the...
Because the father was a cook.
Yeah, the cook in the White House. I think it was like a temporary position, so they moved there for a few years or something. And left their wife and daughter behind. No, it's a sitcom. You can find a way. Yeah, I don't know. Also, as far as Boy Meets World characters go, who would you want? Jack? Would you want Tommy or Jason?
I would want Jack if it was about Eric.
Yeah.
I can see Jason being in it, but it'd be really hard to see Jason in end of spectrum Eric.
Yeah. Because
Jason was in the early seasons of Boy Meets World, and so you don't really see that kind of dynamic because they were kind of each other's straight man in different ways.
Yeah.
Because it never really got quite as crazy. It was more like Eric was girl crazy or something like that.
And they were both kind of... Here's the thing. I have to say, I know people love the actor, and I have nothing against the actor. I always hated Jason. I thought he was one of the worst parts of Boy Meets World. I just think that he's Eric, but more mean. Like that's how I always took it. I don't think he was a very nice character. He wasn't a very three-dimensional character. He was just kind of a jerk who was obsessed with girls. And like, so I was like, I would be fine if he popped up for like a few episodes here and there for this show. But I would much rather Jack be the straight man.
I would have a hard time understanding where to put him.
Yeah.
If I was creating the show.
Yeah.
But Jack, I can even see Tommy in and out.
Yeah.
You would have to have Corey every once in a while.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like every once in a while you'd have to have the entire Girl Meets World cast somewhere in the periphery.
Yeah.
Sean, I honestly can't see anywhere in this project.
No, I don't think that makes sense.
I just can't.
The other question is Michael Jacobs. Do you think
is he involved or
not?
not?
Do you think it's written by Michael Jacobs? 'Cause I don't really think it is. I think it's somebody new, and I think they're just capitalizing on... Because I don't think Michael Jacobs would want to write this show.
What's the legality of that?
I mean, I'm sure that he doesn't own Boy Meets World. I'd be very surprised if he owned Boy Meets World. But, like... Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty sure that when he came on, they didn't want to do it without him. That's why they were trying to coax him into doing it. For Girl Meets World. So I think they could do it without him, especially they could get his blessing or whatever. I also would be interested in maybe if Will was like executive producing it, because he has written Girl Meets World episodes. He's written for Disney in the past, apparently. So that could be possible. I don't think he'd showrun it, because that'd just be so much.
I think I'd rather just see a revamp of Kim Possible. if they reboot Kim Possible,
yeah.
I feel like...
And Batman Beyond at the same time.
Oh, I mean, that's a different discussion. Like, definitely Batman Beyond.
Yes.
Well, as far as Disney is concerned, I feel like that would be a great way for him to get his own spotlight again.
Yeah.
But
I mean, he already has that in an animated set. He's Star-Lord in the Guardians of the Galaxy show. He was the protagonist, if you don't know Guardians of the Galaxy. He's on multiple other animated shows right now.
Oh, he is still?
Yeah. Okay. He's on Transformers show as a voice. So he's on a bunch of stuff. So I feel like this would be because he wants to be Eric again. Or
Batman.
Or Mr. Squirrels, more specifically, I think.
Yeah, see, that's the biggest thing.
Yeah.
Mr. Squirrels was a one-off.
Yeah.
And now that's kind of all Eric is.
Yeah.
And that's weird to me.
Yeah.
Because
because that's not what. Well, that's the thing is one thing that I feel like generally Girl Meets World has taught us is that a joke is funniest when you let it stay on its own, and when you bring it back 50 times, it can be funny in the right context, but it usually isn't.
Yeah.
Especially when you bring back something from 20 years ago.
Yeah.
It usually is, this should have been left.
20 years ago in a fantasy sequence.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It was a great moment, but then when you make it into who he is, it becomes this. It makes this one-off ridiculous thing into just he is ridiculous.
It's the equivalent of that one episode where they were in, like, the Shangri-La, the sort of Casablanca episode, and if you brought back any other character, but they were that character. Do you know what I mean? From the Shangri-La. Yeah. I mean, and that would, like, not fit because it was a fantasy sequence and a one-off.
It's a hard. I don't know if that analogy makes total sense because, like, Eric kind of fit Mr. Squirrel. Like, you could see Eric becoming that in some degree.
Yeah, but for them to actually label it as such and really go the complete distance, it's like, I agree, yes, it's a softer transition and quite that, but it's a pretty big transition.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, because we should also put forth for people who are new to watching our stuff that we in general are not as huge fans of Eric's later seasons as his middling. Like, his middle seasons, to me, like 4 and 5 and a little bit of 6, is definitely his best stuff. And I think 7 was just a step too far.
For me, I think you are maybe a little more harsh, but for me, it's not that I don't like the later season Eric, it's just that I have to be realistic about what this show would be and what the heart of what Boy Meets World and Girl Meets World at its best is.
Yeah.
And that is the periphery, you know? The real stuff is not crazy Eric. That's the stuff that comes in to lighten the mood as the other things are going on.
Now, my question to you, I want to throw in, my favorite season 7 episode is when Eric is toned down, he had good rest that day, and he's actually being dramatic. So, like, that's the kind of Eric that I like. I like the Weatherman arc, I like, stuff like that. Him trying to figure out his life and his job and his future. Now, how would you feel if Girl Meets World was continuing on Disney, and we get Eric Meets World on Freeform? Would you feel happy with that, or would you feel cheated out of Girl Meets World moving to Freeform?
Again, very strange decision making. I don't know who thought that would appease anyone.
I think it will appease some people. I mean, I've seen people even on Twitter that are very excited about Eric.
Why wouldn't they do the opposite? That's what confuses me.
Because I guess that's the thing that's interesting is on paper it would make sense to have Eric Meets World on Freeform because it's about adults, and so it's like, oh, we're gonna have more adult stories with this adult character on the more adult network. But you're right, but he isn't an adult character, and so. Yeah, in a lot of ways you're right, that it would make more sense for it to be a flip-flop, for Disney to keep having the Girl Meets World buzz in an Eric show with kids, and let Girl Meets World switch to Freeform. Has that ever happened before? While simultaneously on different networks, the same or the similar universes existed at the Yes.
Can you think of
the one example I can think of is Buffy and Angel. They started on the same network, and then I believe Buffy got moved to a different channel because that channel did not want to pay for it anymore. So that was very weird because they started out as it was a spin-off, and they could interact. And then
I'm vaguely aware of the existence of these things.
And then it moved to a different channel, and suddenly they couldn't interact anymore. It was just like, this is weird. And so, like, then once Buffy ended, Angel was able to get some stuff. So it was a weird situation. There are things like that that have happened. That's just the one that jumps to mind for me. And especially with the ABC owning both channels connection, that's not out of the question.
No, I know. It's just it's a weird thing where you flip on the TV and you're like, oh, what channel do I have to go to now?
Yeah. So I don't know. Tell us what you would think. Do you have anything else you want to talk about with this? Yeah. So these are the rumors. Who knows? Maybe none of this will happen. Well, I guess my last point, is, would you want to decom? Is he maybe talking about? He's saying you're Seymour Eric. Maybe that isn't a show. Maybe it's a decom or something like that.
My initial reaction would be yes.
Yeah.
But it lends itself to a weird place because though certain things will do that, will have movies for the shows, that was never like a Boy Meets World
style
attitude type thing. And obviously we're already so far away from that. And I don't know that it would be bad, but
well, here's the thing.
I would be wary, rather, of what that does to Girl Meets World and what they think they can get away with.
Well, see, that's funny because to me, I think you could have easily back in the day, if Boy Meets World had been on Disney Channel, you could have made the happiest show on earth when they go to Disney World into a decom. Like, be like, oh, they're going here.
See, I wouldn't have wanted that.
Yeah, I know you wouldn't have, but I could see that happening. I don't know. I think that there's room for an Eric decom. It would feel kind of odd to me. I would, again, rather just having a Girl Meets World decom. I think that...
And one that's not that they go to Disney World.
Yeah. And the thing is, none of the Eric stuff to me makes me excited. I would give it a shot. I would see where it was like, but to me, every time I think I'm going to be picking Girl Meets World continuing in some way over this.
Do you know what I would want if they did a Girl Meets World decom? Is I would kind of want that, the interesting kind of setup where Girl Meets World ends.
Yeah.
And it ends in such a way that it cannot continue.
Yeah.
But
everybody dies.
Well, what they do is so that, and then a year later, they create a movie which takes place a little bit before the end of the show.
Interesting.
So even though it comes after, what you do is you create the want for it, right? Because the show is over and you want to see these characters, but it's over in a way that it can't continue, so it has a sort of legacy about it and has a drama to it. But then you bring back this thing where it's like, okay, now here are the characters, and it's just a little bit back in time, but here it all fits generally.
But then where's the drama in that if you're knowing where they're going to end up anyway?
Because it can be a side drama.
Okay.
I mean,
I don't particularly want that, but I can see where you're going.
I mean, there are a lot of things that do that. A lot of animes and stuff will take that route. And I've seen that be very successful. I can think of, like, Cowboy Bebop movie is a really good example of that. I can just see that working in this case if done correctly.
Interesting. I also wouldn't mind. So, like, I don't know how much like, if it ends now, right? If it ends at the end of season 3, I don't know how much head time they knew whether they were going to end or not. And if they had a few last things they wanted to do and tie up in a movie, I'd be okay with that too. They're actually seemingly doing a similar thing to that with the Scream TV show, where there's going to be a 2-part Halloween special because it doesn't seem like they're getting another season. So all the stuff they were going to put in season 3, they're like minimizing and putting into like a movie setting.
They're going to Italy.
Yes.
Becoming pop stars.
Exactly. All right, let us know what you guys think. Do you want Eric show? Do you want to replace Girl Meets World? Do you want that on Freeform? Do you want Girl Meets World on Freeform? Do you want everything to just end and everybody to be sad forever? Let us know. Again, check out the description for links and stuff about what we're talking about here. And check us out on Twitter at GMW Podcast. Subscribe to our channel.
If you have a touchscreen, do this. But if you don't poke your screen. Don't do it. You can ruin the...
You can use one of these mouses. You can go click. And thank you for listening. Bye.